Okay, is we ready to start? It's 4:01. Thank you, Patrick, for joining us. Call to order, please. Roll call, sorry.
December 20, 2017. Bob Waddle,
Here.
Joe Cavasari,
Here.
Donald Chestnut. Here. Jane Condon. Here. Tom Osterberger.
Here.
Jeff Pearson.
Here.
Kathy Trisna. Here. Pat Mudrin.
Here.
Okay, approval of minutes, November 15th, 079-2017.
So moved.
Everyone had a chance to review them. Any comments or questions before we have a motion? And we have a motion.
I'll second.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Public to be heard regarding agenda items. Any comments from the public regarding the agenda today? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Financial reports, operational bills paid and payable, and payable age listing, and then into the financials for September. So 08-217.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Treasurer Donnie Chestnut. We noticed we had a duplication of a petty cash reimbursement, so we backed that out of page 3 of the November 24th listing. And so you have before you a revised 80-2017. So the recommendation is to approve operational bills paid and payable in the amount of $530,118.73.
So you basically reduced the top 24 November 2017 down to $103,988.60.
That's correct.
Sorry. Thank you, Donnie.
Eagle-eyed Chestnut was on the problem there.
Any comments or questions? One of the items that I questioned, and Donnie actually mentioned to me too, was CPR. We use Manuka. Does Joliet not provide that, or do we not go to Joliet, or why do we use Manuka? Nothing against Manuka, by the way.
This lady is an EMT that we have on staff who is affiliated with the Manuka Fire Department and CPR training for staff.
Okay.
It was the lowest hanging fruit for the class, so we picked her.
Okay. That's fine.
And so if anyone wants to have a cardiac moment, there are several people in this room that can probably help you. Although I can't ever remember how many breaths to a pump it is, so bear with me if I have to keep referring.
But I remember how to yell, help!
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 Are you okay?
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we get to slap you.
Money well spent.
I know VCR cards.
Can you watch the
You want me to
other
slap you? Okay.
the other thing I would comment on is that there are in the 170,000 report, which is the 7th of December 7th report, there are 3 payments to Venue Works for co-pro settlements. And the question in discussion with Val, she informed me that this could represent a repayment of deposits. Val, I don't know if you can answer that or not.
On the 7th of November.
That report is,
The week ending on the 7th. And lines number 43, 44, and 45.
yes.
Yes, those are World of Dance co-promotion settlements, which also includes like their down payment for the artist fee. So I would assume that the World of Dance was like a $10,000 artist fee. And Yanni co-promotion, I believe that may have been, I'm not sure what his artist fee was at the time, $15,000 I believe. And then Brian Setzer was 29, and that was about, well, that includes surplus revenues from that show that did well. So it's artist fee and a share of the proceeds, yes.
So the reason I'm asking is that my first blush when I saw this, I thought, you know, VentureWorks did a very good job of picking shows to co-sponsor because they made a nice profit off of it. And of course, if we step back and say, should we be a little more, take a little more risk and maybe look at these shows in terms of the Rialto getting the benefit of the profit. But can we show the deposit for somewhere in the description column?
Yes, we can do that for you, sure.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, thank
And
you.
there may also be, additional fees, like if they had marketing, that they.
Well, even if you showed
marketing lines,
just
that's
the related expenses in dollars,
Right.
so I could net it out. Like, so if the RST World of Dance, if the deposit was 10,000, then they made 3,400.
Right.
That's reasonable. I'm not saying that that's unreasonable.
And I would like to share with you what the formula happens to be at the present time regarding that. If one of the entertainment offerings tanks, type of thing, we're held whole and VentureWorks takes the loss.
Correct.
Okay, understand that? And then otherwise there could be co-promotions, like if there's a third party involved, something like Nightlight or another co-promotion like Outback Concerts with VentureWorks, then VentureWorks and the other parties share like the 80%, so it could be like 40-40 and 20 to us.
For profit only.
For profit
But on the
only.
downside, it's a 50-50 downside
Right.
for VentureWorks and the other promoter. But we get only on profit, we don't partake in loss.
Mhm. So at this particular point and this particular stage of our redevelopment, I think that's a fair deal. So we'll be glad to note what the artist fee is for all of you. And any other kind of reimbursement expenses regarding.
Okay. Don, did you have anything else?
I did. I just want for clarification. Dale, on here, there's a Supply Works in Jacksonville, Florida. Are they the same company as Supply Works in Chicago?
Probably,
Is that through VentureWorks, the contract we have? Okay.
yes, it's part of the bulk
The bulk buying?
place, and we probably send payments to Chicago, but the home office is in Jacksonville probably.
Okay. I assumed that, but you know how we never like to assume anything.
And then there's another bulk buying place with an office supply company, right, Patty?
I'm sorry, what did you,
The office supply company that we deal with,
just Staples?
Staples.
Yeah,
That's another bulk
yeah, that's another bulk one,
with
yeah.
that
Red
opportunity,
Star,
Red Star, Red Line, or whatever.
Any more? Any further questions for Dale? Anyone down here, any questions or comments? So could I get, I guess we need to take a roll call vote on the, I need a motion on 8217
Motion to approve.
in a second,
Second.
and a roll call, Jim.
Jeff Pearson,
Yes.
Don Monsterberger,
Yes.
Donnie Chestnut,
Yes.
Joe Carlosari,
Aye.
Kathy Kuzma,
Yes,
Jane Condon,
Aye.
Bob Pilato.
Yes. We haven't done it yet. So next up is the September financials, 81-2017. And as Dale mentioned in his memo, these are basically, that the audit field report was completed. Format for the fiscal year ended 6/30 will be different from the previous years due to moving from one software package to the other. And actually, when the audit report comes out, we agreed not to have supplemental data this year. And the cities agreed to that as well. We wanted to make sure that they were on board with that. So when Val and I met with the mayor and David Hales, is David here, by the way?
No.
When we met with those two gentlemen, I did ask them to consider that. They took it to Mr. Gadati, and we did get a response back that they didn't feel it was needed. So that saved us a couple $1,000 on the audit. So Dale, when I look through this relative to our budget, so to speak, I didn't see any surprises in here. Anything that you want to point out before I open it for questions?
Not particularly. I don't have any comment, I'm sorry.
That's okay, you know. Any questions from the board?
QuickBooks does have the capability is to put the budget next to the actual.
Yes, and that's one of those
moving
things where
forward.
you have to catch up on.
Yeah. And Jane, you probably, maybe you had time to read Val's views today, maybe you didn't. One of Val's views comments is that we're pretty close on finding a new director of finance. And certainly on my list of things for him or her to do will be that. I'm really hoping that by July 1, we can have some different types of reports like that. But you're absolutely right, QuickBooks is a breeze, once you get comfortable with it. Beyond the financial statements in your package was a document entitled Profit and Loss by Job. I'm having some difficulties understanding this report on the private rentals for the weddings. First of all, I thought we discussed removing the names, but that didn't happen. But the reports on the shows, like the Gordon Lightfoot's and Three Dog Night and those, and maybe this is a timing issue, but I'm just not sure how these numbers flow, and I don't want to get into a detailed discussion about it today, but I would just look at those bottom line numbers with the question of whether they are complete or not. And maybe they're not complete, and maybe that's the intent of this report. But at some point, as I shared with Val earlier today, I would like to get to the point where when we start a Gordon Lightfoot show or any other show for that matter, we open a job report, whatever day that is or whatever date that is. And until that is finalized and closed and out, we would get a running report. And then once it's closed, we'd see the bottom line, and then it would move into a closed report. So we have an open and a closed report. So we would always know. I don't want anyone to look at this and think this might be done. Even though some of the weddings probably are done, the private rentals. But I do like this report. I do find it interesting. Any other comments or questions? Anyone from the board?
Just that the last time we did see this report a couple months ago, we knew that many of these were in process, and so there were other costs to be applied.
Yep.
And they still look, a lot of them encouraging, with good results. So
I agree. Yeah, I would agree with that comment. Well, I mean, that's kind of the intent of watching it as it progresses, is to hopefully, it looks like it's going the right way.
right.
So, do we need approval on this?
No,
I'm sorry?
I don't think so.
Information only, okay. Old business, dedicated funding sources, okay. One of the things I've received in an email, I am not sure when, I apologize, is a document from Senator Pat McGuire's office, from his policy and budget analyst, a gentleman by the name of Aaron Holmes, and this is dated November 21. Is someone trigger this, or why did I get this, or?
Bob, I did.
Oh, you did, Pat, okay. So,
What options are out there? What are other theaters doing? What we have the potential for at a
so this
gathering?
so this kind of parallels, Joe, what you did with the Springfield legislature.
What's the content of that? What is the content of this?
Basically,
Yeah, this is it. This is
it's
exactly-
basically a recap of what Joe talked about the last meeting, which is this, I'm going to call it the Springfield legislation.
And it was also raised with State Representative Walsh, did that with him, I think we talked about that, and mentioned Senator McGuire, so I think it's a good list.
So again, this is kind of more along the lines of things are moving along, but slowly. I also know that through the grapevine, so to speak, that Natalie Manley's working on this issue as well for us. I know that there is soon to be a conversation with the mayor on some proposed streams of cash, reoccurring streams of cash. So we keep beating the drum, and eventually something should happen. Anyone else want to share, or if they can't share, conversations you may have had or things that you see might be happening in this area?
No, I think that we're just piggybacking off of the meeting that we had, which was excellent, where Bill led us through various options and the history of all the different funding sources and how we could compare and contrast various other civic centers and their statutory authority to collect and levy taxes versus ours. And I think we're seeing on all fronts, as Bob mentioned, and it's good that we get a monthly update on that.
I was just going to comment that it appears that throughout everybody that we've contacted, everybody seems to be on board that we need to do something. So we really haven't had a lot of pushback that says there's no way we can't help you, which I think is a positive compared to where we were before. So we'll keep on pushing and see what we can make happen.
Jane, anything?
There was a little bit of talk of maybe trying to do a workshop in January to regroup and kind of maybe bring the board back together and look forward as to where maybe we want to direct our energies going forward. I'm wondering if there's any interest in trying to do that.
I'd like to do that. Assuming we can get a date that works for everybody. That's tough with it. Everybody has busy schedules, but it'd be nice to have a workshop to go through some of this stuff after we've kind of all looked at it and proceeded on our own routes to try and do whatever we can for the betterment of the theater.
I don't disagree.
I think
So
the board-
we want to try and find a time that works. See if we can coordinate that, get that moving. Yeah. Thanks, Jane. Ratification of Rosario Sabella's Suite 600 lease, 082-2017. I'm assuming this is required since we didn't have the amendment in place to allow Val to sign for that. This is 82-217. We approved this last month, effectively. So what do we need here? Just a motion to reapprove?
To ratify it.
To ratify? Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? Do you want a roll call, David?
Sure.
I should never ask you.
I'll always say yes.
I know. Okay, roll call. I'll give it to him this time.
Jane Condon,
Aye.
Jeff Pearson,
Yes.
Kathy Trisna. Yes. Joe Carlosari,
Aye.
Donna Chestnut,
Yes.
Tom Osterberg.
Yes.
Bob Waddell.
Yes. Okay, next up is 83-2017 amendment to the Rialto Square Management Agreement. And again, basically, this goes back to our discussion over the last couple of meetings, I believe, in an effort to streamline the leasing process, if you will. We have spoken with VenueWorks, and at the suggestion of David, we've come forth with this amendment to the agreement that effectively allows Val, along with Jeff remaining involved as the liaison, if you will, to approve leases. Now, at your table today was also, because one of the comments that we came up with last month was, should there be some parameters around that? And as a result of that, John Oliveri has put together some basic parameters, and you have those in front of you. Although I would like to think, and I would hope that the board would agree with this, that certainly Val, certainly VenueWorks, certainly Jeff understand how critical leasing this space is to us. So I don't believe for a minute that they would ever do anything to harm our position. And so I don't see anything here that certainly harms, and I don't think anything here ties your hands, John or Val or Jeff. So that's what this amendment relates to, if you will. Questions? Anyone have any concerns or comments with this process or procedure? We move forward? Everybody comfortable voting on this at this point?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? Yeah, he's the liaison, should he be voting? Is
I
that-
don't think it matters.
Okay, we have a motion, and a second?
Second.
And that would be to approve the amendment to the management agreement and also to include the guidelines in there.
Correct.
So we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't catch that. So the guidelines are part of the amendment?
I don't know that they're part of the amendment, but they're the board's guidelines.
Okay. So how are we voting on it? I'm just saying, I don't understand what are we voting on with respect to the guidelines? I get the agreement.
Right, well, I mean, I guess it's an adoption of the guidelines, you know, as part of the amendment. The amendment talks about that Venue Works would have the authority to enter into the leases subject to any parameters established by the board. These would be the parameters that are part of it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, no,
Okay.
that makes sense.
I should have called them parameters, that's what they're called in the agreement, so that's what it is.
We can move outside of our guidelines though by an action of the board.
Yeah, by action of the board, right. This is
Yeah.
just, you know, to maintain, you know, control with Venue Works and John working together. If they have, you know, an unusual circumstance.
I just want to make sure the guidelines aren't in any way restrictive on this board.
No, not at all. Let's see. I think, John, you provided that in here. Well, it's leases longer than 10 years will need board approval. I mean, I think anytime, I mean, once the lease is signed, I don't think you can come back and second guess what's in it. But certainly you can, you could direct Venue Works or you could direct John or anybody else to, you know, go above and beyond these guidelines. Or you could change them for you.
Right, if market conditions were to change, then we can come back and adjust the
Right,
guidelines.
right.
Okay, so if market conditions change, that would require the board to vote to modify the guidelines?
I think so, yeah.
But we couldn't violate, we couldn't just modify it as an act of the board? Would you vote?
I think you could override it. Yeah, I mean,
Override,
if
that's right.
if they brought the
That's what I'm
link,
trying
so
to figure
in a
out.
these are guidelines for the authority for John and Val and Jeff, I'm sorry.
That's how you do it.
Nice to meet you. These are guidelines for Mary, John, and Joe, or whatever their names are, to work, okay? If they have a particular lease that they feel, you know, isn't fitting within these parameters or needs special board consideration, certainly they can bring that back to the board. Yeah, and you could take care of it.
So I have a question.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
These are minimums too. We're starting higher, and these are minimums based on the speed they need to get in and what they're going to be providing in construction or improvements themselves. So all we're doing is minimums, and our goal is to
Get the best deal.
Yes, is to get the highest deal. So we're starting high, and these kind of give us minimums so we can negotiate quickly. Because we have a tenant that called today on another building that wanted to get in by the end of the year. We don't know anything. So that's how quickly some of these tenants want to come in. And we're going to make it happen on that building. So that's what we want to be able to do here. We're getting tenants that say, I need an answer by next week. And so these guidelines, we know we could give them offers, and if they counter offer and that's still above our minimums, then we could talk to Val and Jeff and negotiate, and then as long as we don't go below this. And then
Right,
if
yeah.
somebody makes an offer below this, we can either counter offer higher, or we have to come to the board, and I'll tell them, we have to wait for the next board meeting. So we won't even have to, we shouldn't have to call special meetings, because I'll just tell the tenant, if they're making a low offer, that they have to wait. But we wanted some guidelines, so we had some moves to get things done quicker.
So these numbers, I mean, if the real estate committee's good with it, I'm good with it. The numbers came out of ranges of rent and likelihood of the tenant improvements? And
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
It's really the range of what's out there now that we're competing against, plus we've taken into account people doing their own build out. That's what we're trying to convince people. We have one tenant right now, we're trying to convince them, they're like, oh, can you do some tenant improvements? And we're like, we really don't want to.
Right.
We want
No, no,
somebody to
absolutely.
let them.
Tom,
So-
let's look at it today, like you're looking at it.
Yeah, no, look,
Okay.
it's your purview. If you guys
No,
are
we
good.
haven't seen it before this, that's
Okay.
all I'm saying.
I'm in favor with the concept. My question was the numbers. If you guys are worried about the numbers, you gotta talk through it. If you're worried about the concept, that's obviously.
My biggest concern is really the fact that you're putting this down, we're putting this in paper, and anybody who would, as their right as a citizen to be able to FOIA it, would be able to get this. I'm wondering if that hamstrings your negotiations.
I agree, Joe. I was thinking that.
That's
but
the only, that's
when
what
you-
I'm thinking about, because why do we need the guy, I mean, can it essentially be an unwritten rule among those in charge?
I mean, it could
that
be.
they
My impression from the board meeting last time was
Was
that
that-
200 parameters set.
Yes.
Right.
So that's why we did it.
But I think, Joe, if you look at this, this is a range of authority. I mean, this is a authority within a range, and all of our properties are vastly different. So you could get one where I mean, so
It's not all
I
cookies.
thought exactly
Yes.
what you were thinking. I'm like, well, why would we do this? But
Yeah.
they can't tell anything.
It's not all
And
cookie
here's a
cutter.
good example, when Tomzek moves out, when he moves into his new building, he's got a beautiful space. We're not giving into that one
Right,
unless you know, something,
right.
unless there's some circumstances. That one, we should get more per
Market
square foot.
value.
Yeah.
Right.
It should be probably a little bit, like dollar above market, I think, because this space is so nice. So there's spaces in there that are nice that we'll tell Val, listen, we don't agree with this offer. We'll always give you our opinion. We don't agree with this offer. If you really want it, you can take it, you're the owner, but we don't agree with the offer, because we're gonna keep trying to get trucks out.
And I think certainly the understanding with Val and Pennyworks is this board has ultimate decision if you want to. If you want to
Fine by
go
me.
beyond what you get.
So where are we at?
I'm good with them.
Okay?
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to approve. We can always, as you said, revisit this in 3 months if we're not happy.
We have a motion and a second to approve.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's just a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Good.
No roll call, just doesn't listen.
I'm not asking. Next up is 84 2017 member attendance by means other than physical presence. So, you know, we have had, I think, a couple occasions in the past where one or another board member was not available to meet, and we put them on my phone or Jeff's phone, I can't remember which. And I think we're just formalizing that. So I'm assuming everyone's okay with that, since we
They
always
weren't allowed
ask.
to vote, so
Right.
that
It
doesn't
just was-
change. I
Right.
didn't know if there was even an issue with that.
Right.
I don't think there's an issue,
Oh, okay.
not that I'm aware of anyway, because we always asked if everyone was comfortable with it before, and they were.
You need action.
I was just saying, I'm married, nobody asked if you're comfortable.
Oh, okay. You tell me, do I need a motion on this?
I wasn't listening.
Do we need a motion on the member attendance?
Oh, definitely. You need a roll call.
No, no, no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But in
Well,
there,
okay, is there a motion?
in that third, in the third section, I think
The
that,
italicized part?
yeah, I think it did say that they had the right to vote. I don't know what.
Oh, I don't think they
I don't think that's right.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't think they did.
Electronic attendance?
So you can
Yeah, you can vote.
vote by electronic.
As long as there's a quorum here at the, that's the whole point.
There has to be a physical
There
quorum.
has to be a physical quorum here,
Okay.
right? So then if you're out of town.
So that person cannot electronically make the quorum, right?
Correct.
Physical
Correct.
quorum,
Yeah.
okay.
So if you're out of town on business, or you're sick, or taking care of somebody else that's sick, that's, the whole point of it is to allow you to vote.
Okay.
But isn't this essentially an amendment to the bylaws?
I don't.
Organization? Because our bylaws talk about physical presence, so that's, and then to amend the bylaws, we have to post it one meeting in advance and all that.
I think this would on its face amend the bylaws if that was the case. I mean, this is following the permission of the state law. I suppose we can look at it when we amend the bylaws, but it seems like it effectively does amend the bylaws.
So do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Where do you even come for a day?
Foundation report?
Okay, the commission met a couple of weeks ago when we were in the throes of all of the holiday events that have been taking place over the last 4 weeks. And I just wanted to mention that, you know, the foundation's purpose is to support the theater and raise funds. And I'd like to compliment Val and her staff in particular, Jack and Marilyn and Leanne and all the volunteers.
That is the staff, you know.
Okay, the small staff, so hardworking, for all the great events that were put on, because we know it is fundraising that they're doing. However, what is very evident too is they're making the theater very accessible to everyone. You know, there were events that were for as little as toddlers and young children, movies for families to go to. The organ concert and choir music was a lot of senior citizens. They had a light lunch that brought people in during the middle of the day. And then the kickoff, celebrate the season, that first Monday going into Thanksgiving, you had a lot of business people. We had support from Foundation Board, a good turnout from our board. The council people came over after their meeting. County Executive Larry Walsh was there in attendance too. So that was a great community event that seemed to really kick off, you know, the whole 3 or 4 week period. So I just, you know, want to greatly compliment everyone with Val and her team of how successful everything seemed to come off. And with, you know, this being Val's first year doing this, Marilyn's first year doing this, it was just a spectacular accomplishment, I would say.
Yeah, I want to echo those comments. I'm hearing such positive results from the holiday season, and it's a tribute to the foundation, to the staff, to you, Jane. I know you were here working, taking a tree down. So, but just a lot of positive comments. It's opened the theater back up, so to speak, to the community, and the involvement has been wonderful.
Yeah, and I think that's a, you know, just a point to come back to again, is how it makes the theater accessible to everyone. And you know, you can come into the theater for $5 and see a great movie or something with other people from the area.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, I agree.
kudos. So that is my report.
Did you get Jack off today for his birthday? Or?
He took 2 weeks off. I know.
2 weeks off?
I know. I don't know who signed that, but when I find out who did, heads are gonna roll.
Okay. I guess you're up, huh? Oh.
First of all, there is a small token of my appreciation for each of you for being there for us, supporting us, and being the best board that, I don't know, I could hope for, because I've heard stories about some of the other boards. I'm here to tell you what. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy. So where have we been in the last month? Well, we've had Celebrate the Season with 212 tickets sold. Teddy Bear Tea were $194 and $187, and we upped each of the seatings by, was it 40, Marilyn, or two?
We went from 150 to 240,
To
or 220.
220. So at 194, we're pretty close up there. Home Alone, 588. Nutcracker was at a record 1,700. The Santa Claus movie, 138. We were up against some nice weather that day, and I think a lot of people opted to do some Christmas shopping. Natalie Grant and Danny Goki were 855. Our holiday luncheon for the seniors, 192. Charlie Brown came in at a whopping 1690. It's a Wonderful Life was 1040. Cirque was 1115, and Colors of Christmas was 426. Our rentals were Hospice Lights of Love. We had 5 weekly tours since we last met, and 3 tours with organ concerts and a lunch. New shows announced: Hairball, Los Lobos, Jim Jeffries, Manhattan Transfer, Daughtry, and the CMT Women of Country, which is Sarah Evans, Raylan, and Kaylee Shore. 12 of our staff members were certified in CPR. Our participation in the National Day of Giving, which is the Tuesday of the week of Thanksgiving, had resulted in a $4,075 total to date. Our new projector arrived, compliments of the volunteers, and we were able to show the Santa Claus movie in all of its high-def glory the Saturday before that. I think the unseasonably beautiful weather, like I said, kept people from coming. Jack is working on a sponsorship to underwrite the cost of a monthly movie series. So it would be like the 4th Tuesday of every month. movies seem like a no-brainer, however, by the time you add in the cost of renting the movie and the stage hands, and they eke up there rather quickly. So I think if we can start off with a monthly movie series, we might be able to turn that into something more. And we're also trying to do something for the seniors to take the place of that organ concert and holiday thing. So maybe 6 of the nice months over the summer, we would do a luncheon, we would do maybe a little organ, and then we would show a classic movie for them. So we're hoping to be able to get something like that going. We have a temporary marketing person with us for at least the month of December. He jumped right in and is taking ownership of a lot of projects here. I finally secured a snowplow contractor, thank God. So that makes me sleep a little bit better at night. The building committee meeting for December 21st, which will be tomorrow, has been canceled. The notice was sent out to the list of the usual suspects who needed to know. Engineers and stagehands spent a few days replacing all of the light bulbs in the theater, including the 4 chandeliers. And it's quite bright in there now. I didn't realize why it was so dark. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank the WCMEAA board, who has been the backbone of all our efforts, championing our cause each day and supporting us in every way imaginable. The staff of the Rialto Square Theater Foundation board, without their belief in what we could do and lending us a few bucks, none of us would be here. The volunteer board and the volunteers for their many years of generosity and support, and last but not least, the staff, who have worked countless hours during this holiday season, putting up tables, taking down chairs, passing out brochures, moving wreaths, working long hours, decorating, undecorating, and the best team I could hope to be a part of. And in the words of somebody who I've never heard of before, but she's pretty smart, because she's a she, there is mighty power within every man to accomplish great things, and we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments for them?
I have a question. When Daughtry was announced, I thought I heard on the local radio stations, did they team up and do some type of, I thought I heard they were doing some type of a promotion or trying to give tickets away. No? Did I hear that?
They do all kinds of different hooks to get tickets and to get, interest. I think Daughtry, if I'm not mistaken, is a Live Nation, so they're big.
Okay.
Although one wouldn't have known it necessarily in the leading up to Daughtry, there was a lot of bit of, but anyway, he's doing quite well, and he's got to be at I think 1,400,
Oh my
1,500.
gosh,
Yeah.
that is great. So Live Nation would have teamed up with our radio stations to...
Through us. It's a cooperative effort as they come into a market. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, different generation.
He was an American Idol winner. Yeah, it's not Roger Daughtry. Jeff's wife keeps saying, "We got tickets to Roger Daughtry," and I'm like, "Okay."
And his horse. Anyone else? Okay.
Thanks for everything you're doing.
Thank you very much to everybody.
Under my report, as most of you know, since some of you were there, Val and I presented to the City Council last week at the budget workshop. Val did a wonderful job as usual, not only presenting but preparing. She and VenueWorks put together that 2 or 3 page slide program. I think all of you have received a copy of that, and I know most of you were in attendance, so you did see it. And I think it clearly demonstrates just the wonderful success that we've had this year. And the credit for that goes to Val and her staff. It really, really does. She's got a small staff and they work their butts off. An incredible amount of hours. But beyond that, it's just a passion that these folks feel for this organization. And I suspect a lot of us at this table feel that way as well. We just don't put in all the hours. Thank God. Anyway, kudos to you and the staff. Last week, was it last week? This week? We had the staff had a little Christmas party over at a local place across the street.
That was 2 days ago,
One day,
Bob.
So I want to thank Kathy and Mike for that.
Yes.
It was a very nice occasion, good turnout, nice to see staff not in a typical setting. And I got to wear my Christmas sweater.
Yes, you did.
So I certainly, I guess it's that time of the year where we look back and look at what we've accomplished, and we'll have the firm numbers in January sometime, but the point that we strive to the city council, and I think everyone except one of them understands the great success we've had. It's been just a tremendous year by any measure that you want to look at.
As a turnaround,
I'm sorry?
as a turnaround, when you look at the start point.
Absolutely. And the far majority of, as I said, the far majority of the city council, and I think the far majority of the community in general, and certainly you folks, every month I look out here and I see a lot of the same faces, so you're here as well, and I know you feel passionately about it as well. So I thank you for your support, ongoing support, continued support, and when we go to events or programs here at the theater, I don't go to all of them, I go more than I ever have, but I do tend to run into the same faces. And my wife and I took my mother-in-law and my wife and I went to the American Legion performance. As I was walking out, I would guess it was a couple in their mid-40s or so, he was saying to her, I'm just amazed at the change in the theater this year. They're actually showing things now that I want to see. We got to come back. And I don't know who it was, but it was just a random community person. So that's really encouraging, and I have to suspect that you folks and this board are getting the same comments I do. That they're thrilled. We're announcing new things every week. It seems like, or 2 things every week. And obviously that was one of the concerns that the city council expressed last year, and understandably. I understand why they did what they did. I'm hoping that the intergovernmental agreement this year is not as restrictive as it was last year. I hope that they understand that we have our best interests at heart, and their best interests at heart. I think they do. But I also understand, as I shared with Pat earlier today, that document gives them a little bit of CYA that they can point to and say, we just didn't give them the money blindly. There are some restrictions. And I don't think what they asked for last year was unreasonable, and I'm trusting it won't be unreasonable this year. So I'm hoping we can work through that.
When will we see that?
I'm
Not on
hoping,
any budget, not on any meeting agenda, and the next meeting is January 2nd. So, and there was no conversation about it being put together immediately, but I can ask.
and obviously we need to pursue that, Joe, because it's tied to the funding, and we'd like to get the funding as early as January as possible. So, yeah, we have a vested interest in pursuing that. So, and then, and Pat, thank you for all of your efforts this year.
The only reason I ask you, it'd be nice to see it before our next, so we can get that amended if necessary,
or negotiated as necessary.
Well, just to not have to have another meeting to do it, so.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I would sure like to think we could have it by our January meeting. I mean, we better have. I mean, that in itself puts the funding up. We may very well need a special meeting if we want to get the funding in.
Last year, didn't the IGA get tendered at some point in December? I thought that was reported. Maybe I'm mistaken.
I think it was before this board was seated.
I think it was.
That's what I mean. It was in December, I think. I think they voted on it and approved it at this meeting, essentially.
And I don't know if you're right, Joe, because we didn't approve our budget until the second meeting of December. So, city budget.
Right.
So whether it was immediately ready, I don't know that.
It was before this board.
The previous board, yeah.
It was the end of December.
It was the end of December they voted on it. We didn't vote on the
Yeah, our
IGA.
first meeting on January 25th.
No, all we did at the end of June was report on our meeting the IGA, and that led to the second funding in early July.
But I'll contact David Hales. See if he-
Yeah, he was supposed to be here today, but obviously not. That's all On my report, committee reports. I know, Joey, your committee did not meet this month,
Nothing to report.
so. Finally, Val, the board took a collection. Jane bought a card, and we do have a gift card for you.
Oh, thank you.
Merry Christmas, and I want to thank Jane for spearheading that.
It's for therapy.
I hope it's a big gift card then.
No, liquid therapy.
Oh, okay. I hope it's a big gift card then.
I don't believe we have a need for an exec session today unless someone has something I'm not aware of. Public to be heard at this point. Anyone in the audience wish to make comments or questions or?
I just would like to make a comment about the city council meeting. It was how refreshing it was to go up there and not get beat up. I mean, been there many, many times, and the negativity was just,
palatable.
But it was nice. You guys did a great job. Val did a great job. I think you're prepared for some of the questions, and you know, you're not going to get 100% on board, but I think we got 80% or 85. Whatever the board is -1, I think, whatever that works out to be. But you guys did a great job, and it was nice to attend. We're finding something positive.
Thank you. Anyone else? Audience, anyone else? The board, any comments or questions before we adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, before we adjourn, we need your signature and Donnie Chestnut's signature on a check in order to repay the Cypre loan for 2017, which is in the amount of $56,000, okay?
Great.
The foundation transferred money today in order for that to happen, and it's restricted for that purpose. Type of a thing.
So the foundation transferred money to WCMEAA?
That's correct.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
Okay, that's not what I heard, but that's fine, I prefer it that way,
Right,
actually.
and once we revisited what you thought we should do and all that kind of thing, it made sense, and we sent that up to the home office. and-
Yeah, just to clarify, so there's no hidden agenda here, so to speak. Monday night, I went to Dale and I said, I want to make sure that this gets paid on time and there's a record of it, so to speak. And Lynn and I spoke that evening as well. And apparently at the foundation board, the foundation had the money, so the issue was whether they take the money and pay the loan down as if they gave it to us, or they give us the money, we pay it back, and they pay it down. My preference, so that there's a trail, was that they paid it to us, we pay it back, they pay it down. And that's what we're doing.
That's what
So
we're doing.
I just want to assure everyone that the obligation is being met. So, okay, thank you.
Right.
To
And
be
then-
clear, they, again, did something amazing, right? And
Well, all of their work this year and their fundraising has been amazing, yes. Yeah. And it's an integral part of our budget, an
I
integral
want
part of
a,
our
I want a
cash flow.
personal loan like that, right? Or loan to me and then I get loaned the money to pay him
I'm
back.
just asking.
I need my own foundation.
See how many answers you get already. Yeah.
So with the latest on, I'd like to congratulate the board and everybody, and Dave, even though you don't listen to him.
I try though, I really try.
That everything you did made life a whole lot easier come budgeting time. And I know everyone everyone on the board, the council, had a private meeting with a number of you, and most of which came back to me very positive and thankful for the information. And obviously there was a lot of good information to share,
Right.
where not that it was bad information to share before, but I think there was no information was around, and or nothing was happening to speak of to be shared. But congratulations.
Well, there is a lot more transparency now than before. And I think the city's appreciative of that, as they should.
Yes.
So, thank you, Pat. Any other comments? Oh, Lynn?
I just have a comment. Tim and I are members of the foundation board, and the foundation board is so dedicated and, as you mentioned, passionate for this theater. Anything that we can do to further all of the hard work that everyone is doing, we're there. And this $56,000 being paid, the total is $600,000 in the Cypre So those who signed the form to allow us to do this,
Consented, yeah.
they will be getting the donors to because it is their money, and we want them to know that we're responsible for giving it where it needs to go, but that they
Doesn't
will.
payment occurred, as
They,
scheduled.
right, they will receive a letter telling them that
Wonderful.
this was done, because they were so willing to sign the form and say, and Mr. Brent Wadsworth was at the top of the list, I have to mention.
Yeah, I'm sure the lion's share was his.
Yes, you're right.
One last thing, Mr. Chairman. I informed the foundation board meeting, because they won't meet until February of next year, that
Slappers.
my time with you as a full-time employee with Venue Works will be ending January 31st. I expect to start a chapter in life called retirement, but I don't know how that's going to fly or not. So publicly, I'm letting you know that, in my understanding is, things are in the works with Venue Works to find a replacement, to which you alluded to before and such.
Thank you.
So we obviously will meet one more time before we let Dale go, and I'm sure there's a big party that will be planned to give him his appropriate recognition for spending his lifetime here, it seems like. How many years, Dale? 35, 6?
July 15th, 1981, you figured it out.
It's just way too long, I'll tell you that. Anyway, thank you. Thank
Although
you.
you should have Dale put something in writing, all the knowledge that he's taken with him.
And he'll be here for another 36 years.
Okay, anyone else before we adjourn? Hearing none, could I have a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
So Happy holidays, everyone.